Another month, another group of questions from supporters on Patreon and Subscribestar at the $5 level. And there's more than usual, so strap yourselves in. If you'd like to ask a question for the month of March, just use the links in the description and sign up. One question per supporter, please. Sean Pierre asks, how can I pay less in taxes as an American citizen? The best advice I can give is have it done by someone who knows what they're doing. Of course, that generally costs money, so if you don't want to pay anything, you can use one of the free online services. The last few years I used Free Tax USA, before that I used TaxAct, but this year I used the new tax feature on Credit Karma, and I like it a lot better, but I can't tell you whether or not you can save as much as you can by paying someone. Now, if you want to cheat on your taxes, I can't advise you about that because that's illegal. You might be able to find ways of making money in ways the IRS can't find out about, but you really want to be careful of any such scheme. You'll run into a lot of people who say, oh, I've been doing this for 5 years or 8 years or whatever, and the IRS hasn't found it yet. But understand that the IRS isn't going to come after you until you owe enough in back taxes to be greater than the costs they'd spend collecting it from you. So anyone can get away with it for a few years, but then bam, they've ruined you or you're even in prison. So yeah, just use Credit Karma. Pipsqueak asks, a lot of alternatives to Patreon cropping up recently. What are the better ones and how do they operate? The only one I've seen that's any good is Subscribestar. It's not all it needs to be, but they've got the basics, including access to the special supporter Discord channels. The only other one I've signed up for is bitbacker.io. I'm Shane DK there, but really, I don't think it's all that good. I don't see any real benefit of it, and I'm sorry, cryptocurrency just isn't ready for this application yet. I want it to be, and hopefully it will soon, like maybe when Dash finally gets Evolution 1.0 out the door, or maybe they'll be able to do something like this with BitTube. We'll see. Josh Havins asks, I recently saw an anti-gun meme. The picture was two guys with handguns pointed at each other's heads. The caption says, "You've just arrived on the scene. Quick, which one is the bad guy? Now do you see the problem?" Obviously implying that it's better to take away the guns from everybody instead of trying to determine who's in the wrong. How does one handle a situation where the one with bad intentions is unknown? So, as I've said repeatedly, problems of investigation are not problems of principle. Just because you can't tell who initiated the force doesn't mean whoever did isn't in the wrong. As to what you should do, my first thought is, why should you do anything? It's between them, and it looks like they're in an even position now. Interfering would probably only make things worse. It's not your fight, so stay out of it. But that phrase, "you've just arrived on the scene," implies that you're a police officer and it's your job to do so. Well, police officers are trained for just this kind of scenario. They're trained in methods to de-escalate the situation and get information from the two of them as to what exactly is going on. And if this is a question about an anarcho-capitalist society, the same thing would apply to a member of a defense organization. Or, he doesn't say where this is, if it's out in public or whatever, but if it's in a building, then it would be up to the security for that building. But either way, they would be trained to deal with exactly this kind of situation, and actually in a free market, their job would depend on it, unlike the police, so if anything, they do a better job of it. And finally, Jason Maltz asks, what are your thoughts on modern monetary theory? Wow, you don't ask small questions, do you, Jason? Okay. Modern monetary theory, or MMT, is basically the idea that the government has effectively an infinite amount of money because they can always print more of it, and so we don't have to worry about things like budget limits and deficits. Yes, it flies in the face of 200 years of economic thought. These are like the people who keep saying, oh, money has value because we all agree that it does, flying in the face of experiences like the Weimar Republic and modern-day Venezuela. This wasn't even created by an economist. It was created by Warren Mosler, a Wall Street investment advisor and hedge fund manager. He created what's called Mosler's Law, which goes, no financial crisis is so deep that a sufficiently large fiscal adjustment cannot deal with it. In other words, just print money and spend your way to prosperity. It's Keynesianism on steroids. Even Keynes himself warned about the pitfalls of debauching the currency. But these guys think that All of these problems happen because aggregate demand is too low, so you just print up money and spend it in the economy to get it higher. It has nothing to do with aggregate supply, which is our ability to actually produce things that make people's lives better. It's all about the lines on economic graphs. And of course, the national debt is no worry because you can just print money to pay it off. This is what real economists call monetizing the debt, and it's universally considered a bad way of dealing with the issue. MMT proponents have said directly, no straw man, that government can't go bankrupt because they can just print more money to cover it. They have no clue what gives money or anything else its value. All you do is debase the currency and make it worthless. What do you think has been happening in Venezuela? For crying out loud, how many times do governments have to try this and go completely under before these people will realize it just doesn't work that way? I mean, seriously, they act like fiat currency is a 21st century invention when it dates back to 11th century China. In Europe, it goes back to 14th century Spain. It didn't work then in either of those cases, and it's not working now. If you ask me, they know they're shoveling it, and here's how you can tell. If they really believed this, why wouldn't they call for repealing all counterfeiting laws and let everyone print money? Sorry, but modern monetary theory is just not worth a continental. You can't get something from nothing. If economics teaches us anything, it teaches us that. There's just no getting around it. Okay, that's it for the February AMA. As always, thanks to my regular supporters on Patreon and Subscribestar, thanks to everyone who's donated with PayPal or crypto, and also thanks to anyone who's installed the Airtime extension and had it running while they were visiting my websites and YouTube videos. And of course, thanks to everyone who watched. If you enjoyed this, then please hit like, subscribe, and the bell, and support this channel using the links at donate.bogosity.tv. Thanks very much, and until next time, stay strong and be free.